Hello and welcome back to Shelf Centered. This is Bryce. As you may or may not know, I made the poor decisions to both move and then go on vacation almost immediately afterward. That's why videos have been a little bit spotty, but we're back. Because of that move, I had to do a bit of downsizing with my books. It's a sad day. It's pretty tragic. It was hard to go through these, so I've got an unhaul for you today. I had to reduce my 3 beautiful bookshelves down to 2, and I've done as much as I can with stuffing this bookshelf full of books, but you know, I had to still get rid of quite a few. So anyway, a lot of these you're gonna see, I'm just downsizing because either they're paperback, they're easy to get rid of. I already have them on audiobook, so there's just no reason to keep a couple copies, or some even I have them on audiobook and on hardcover and on paperback, so one of them had to go. So anyway, a lot of good things. Without any further ado, let's get into some unhauling. All right, first things first, I have picked up a number of anthologies over the years. Or just collections, you name it. First one, this is like a really heavy copy. Anyway, it's Richard Matheson, I Am Legend. I've read I Am Legend. It's great, highly recommended, definitely read it. I have not read Hell House, but I'm sure I can find it somewhere. Since I've already read it, this was one, it was easy for the chopping block. The chopping block had to go far this time, farther than I was remotely comfortable with. The next one is the extreme science fiction anthology. I mean, it's got Alistair Reynolds. I love Alistair Reynolds. It's got Greg Bear, Harlan Ellison, Charles Stross. Again, hard ones to give up, but anyway, hopefully I can find them somewhere else. Then also the mind-blowing SF, the Mammoth Book of Mind-Blowing SF. Same things, Alistair Reynolds, Robert Silverberg here. Anyway, it's hard to give these up, but I had to draw a line somewhere. And then this one was just one I picked up at a used bookshop for probably far more than it was worth. It's a really shoddy copy anyway, and I'm not sure what kind of food stains and garbage stains are on it anyway, so I probably should have gotten rid of this one anyway. But it's the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, Volume 2A, for some reason. The greatest science fiction novellas of all time. Anyway, you know, you can see how that spoke to me, but at the same time, and I love me a good sci-fi novella. Sometimes a really good idea can just pack a punch, but you don't need to go too crazy with it. You don't need a full novel or anything. All right, I think the theme of this part of the video is just huge and mammoth books that were easy to get rid of, but this was one. It's not the greatest copy, greatest shape. I got it used, of course. That's a lot of my collection. And it doesn't look great on my shelf anyway. Cleric Quintet. I still need to read Icewind Dale trilogy. I've got a little bit of the ways to go before I got to this one anyway. But anyway, R.A. Salvador, Forgotten Realms. I love me some Forgotten Realms, but I had to give this one up. Then there's a Range of Ghosts. Just to pick this one up, there's no real reason. I just haven't read any Elizabeth Bear. I hear she writes great works, and again, just space issues. All right, these were easier to get rid of for me. This is going to be Peter F. Hamilton, Mindstar Rising. Then we've got A Quantum Murder, and then The Nano Flower. I do have, I think, the whole trilogy on Kindle already, if not at least the first two books, so I can always get the last one if I need to. If I absolutely need to. But I struggled, I gotta tell you. I really wanted to like Peter F. Hamilton. I read The Reality Dysfunction, and I listened to it on audiobook. I think my biggest problem was the narrator. It was John Lee. I just don't know if I vibe with him. And so I just did not like Reality Dysfunction. I got like, I want to say 70% of the way through that book. And then I started over from the beginning going, maybe I just am not getting what's going on. Maybe I struggled. So I literally, that 1,000-page behemoth going, look, I can't be considered a science fiction fan without liking Peter Hamilton, right? So anyway, maybe I've heard these are a little more accessible, and maybe I should start there. I didn't have the space on the shelf to keep these. So also with that, I just kept picking up Peter F. Hamilton books before I'd read anything. So I just figured the rest need to go. All right, then I've got some S.M. Sterling book. I've actually read this one, and it was good, but it wasn't like anything that I was like, I didn't really have any need to keep going in at least this kind of prequel or early series, The Island on the Sea of Time. I did end up getting a couple of these, Dies the Fire and The Protector's War, so the first couple. And I hear that this part of the story gets really good, but again, this is just one that if I was kind of lukewarm on the first one, there was really no reason for me to keep going and keep the whole rest of the series going. All right, next up we've got We Are Legion. Mostly I've just already read it, and it was good. It was really good, recommended, but I've read it. Not that that's a reason that I am not keeping a large portion of my books that I have already read. That was just one that it was good. It wasn't like I got to keep it though since I read it. The Explorer, I've had this for quite some time and just never found the time to read it. Gone back and forth. The reviews are kind of hit or miss, so it wasn't enough to keep it on the table for me. The Affinity Bridge, I actually won this back in the day when I was big into blogging and all that, but just I've owned this for many years now, and it was like, you know what, time to just give it up. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to get read. Then maybe bad timing for this since it's Halloween, but H.P. Lovecraft, The Best of Blood-Curdling Tales of Horror and the Macabre. But anyway, I read The Call of Cthulhu. It was good, and but I think a lot of these you can find for at least pretty inexpensively on like Kindle or something. Anyway, that's what I tell myself. I have to tell myself certain things to be able to give up my books, okay? Then, if you've seen my list of sci-fi books, the rankings that I'm doing, Armor, it just didn't do a whole ton for me. I enjoyed it fine. There's just a lot better out there that I've enjoyed, so this one definitely on the chopping block. The Air Affair, Jasper Fforde. This is one I need to read more in this series, but again, I've already read this one. It didn't, do like a ton for me, and so I think that's why I'm like, I don't need to keep it. Maybe I will one day when I get deeper into the series, but Future Bryce will have to deal with that when Future Bryce has more room, which who knows. All right, here are a couple that are relatively easy enough to get a hold of, so I just felt like I can get rid of them. But 2 Richard Adams, The Plague Dogs and Shardik, again, just not enough room. I loved Watership Down. I hear these are some of the same kind of level of just falling in love with these animals as characters that Richard Adams just does so well, and I still plan to read them one day. Then we got some, not necessarily fantasy, but from people who write fantasy or horror, people who write kind of in those genres, and maybe there's some horror in these. I don't know. I haven't read them. One is The Terror by Dan Simmons. This is one that I have an audiobook, so I do still plan to read it. It's supposed to be really good. Dan Simmons is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi authors. Ilium, Hyperion. I wasn't a huge fan of The Black Hills, but it was fine. But again, Dan Simmons really knows how to write. And then we got The Tomb, F. Paul Wilson. I just heard a lot of good things about F. Paul Wilson and got a book. And then now I haven't read anything and had to downsize. All right, here's some kind of older, classicer books that I have. We've got The Voice of the Whirlwind. I've read some Walter John Williams. I know he's kind of in that, I believe he's in that kind of George R. R. Martin, Santa Fe, New Mexico writing circle, I think. Anyway, he's one of those authors that just, like, I feel like has written and has been prolific in science fiction, and yet just is not as well known as probably deserved. So I've enjoyed what Walter John Williams has written. I just, again, one of those, I haven't read this one, but it's just, there's so much room. There's only so much room. And there's the Dasati Experiment. I did get this on audio, so there was no reason to keep it here in physical form on my lack of room shelf. And we got Jack Vance. There was a time I was just kind of gobbling up any Jack Vance book that I could find, but this is one that I don't really have any huge interest in reading. So his Dying Earth stuff is amazing. You should definitely read that. Great stuff, but this one I don't even know what it's about or anything. And I haven't read anything outside of Dying Earth, so it's just, maybe we'll get to it someday, who knows. Speaking of which, Lord Dunsany, I have the King of Elfland's Daughter, that is what I did keep, but the Charwoman's Shadow, I did not. Looks like there might be some dragons there and some flowery footsteps and whatnot. Anyway, I don't know, I haven't read any Lord Dunsany, but I still plan on one day. I think as a fantasy fan, you got to read some of these classics like The King of Elfland's Daughter, and one day we'll get there. Fritz Leiber, another one. I need to read his Lankmar books, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I think I pronounce it wrong every time. This is one, this got me with the Hugo winner, but apparently I've read a bunch of reviews and it was kind of like, it's a little outdated, it's a bit like sexist and whatnot, and just kind of, anyway, I don't really need that in my life. So we're good. And I'm not like one of those that judges a book fully on, from our time back to that time, but again, there's so many other books out there. All right, I know a certain Mudge will be very happy that I'm getting rid of these, but this is just one that, these have been sitting on my shelf for ages and I still haven't read them, and these are all sequels. I still have the original trilogy somewhere, I think, but I'm getting rid of all the sequels at least, because if I haven't even gotten to the original trilogy, you think I'm going to read these anytime soon? Who knows, but I'm guessing no. Anyway, but these would be the second Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, starting with The Wounded Land, The One Tree. We've got, I gobbled up so many of them. Why do I do this to myself? And White Gold Wielder, along with, I even started into the most recent series, Against All Things Ending. That one, this sucker, and look, it's not even, it's got issues. It's been in the sun. This has been taking up a lot of shelf space for no reason. Here we've got another series that I just kind of kept gobbling up and buying up as I found them. They look really good. They look really nice. Have I read this author at all? No. But I'm only giving up one right now because it does take up a lot of shelf space. But David Weber's in the Safehold series, How Firm a Foundation. This is it's a huge hardcover. I think I have a bunch of paperbacks. Maybe that's what I'll do. I don't know. I made the argument at the beginning that I'm getting rid of some of these because they're paperbacks, and now I'm like, but these hardbacks take up a lot of space. I don't know. Don't try to get into my mind. What are you, my therapist? These are harder to give up, but they're so far down the line, and I am slowly reading my Robin Hobbs that these ones, I'll get to them when I get to them, but again, these are both. I picked up, for some reason, book 3, the Soldier Son trilogy, and then book 2 of the Fitz in the Fool trilogy, and again, I'm on the Golden Fool and all that. The second Fitz trilogy, the one that follows after publication order after the Live Ship Traders. We'll get to these when we get to them. I have no doubt about that. I'm a huge Robin Hobb fan. We just gotta clear them shelves. As I mentioned, some of these I already have in other copies. I actually got this paperback to actually read with my eyeballs, to actually read, because I have this in a hardcover, but the hardcover I have is signed by Brandon Sanderson and Harriet McDougal and a couple other people. So I was just like, I'm not gonna read that one. So I got this at a used bookstore for cheap and read it, and now it's like, okay, shelf space wise, I don't need to keep holding on to this one. All right, then there is The Dark Sword, book 1. Forging the Dark Sword. I've heard a lot of good things about this. I read the first Dragonlance. I enjoyed it, but this was one of those, if I get to it, I get to it. There's just so much to read out there, and so we'll see. We'll see. That's supposed to be a good trilogy, though. All right, Deathstalker. There's actually a good review on Words in Time that got me that I really want to read it, so I have it on audiobook and don't need the physical book. Another non-fantasy. But Lonesome Dove is supposed to be like a classic, like Game of Thrones Western, I think, or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read it. So this one's easy enough to get on audio through my library, so we'll just save it for that. This one I actually enjoyed, The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. I actually randomly ran into her on a hike in Utah when we were visiting one time, and she's very, very nice. I don't think she believed that I'd read The Goose Girl. She's like, who's this 6'5" guy? There's no way he's read my YA book, directed probably more toward little girls. But I enjoyed it. I had a friend that really liked it and recommended it. That was one. Dangerous is just one I happened to pick up recently because I did my summer reading in my local library. Let's adults do it too. And I just happened to pick that one up off the shelf, and that was before I was finished selling my house and downsizing. So it's like almost like last in, first out. Then we got Lord Valentine's Castle, Robert Silverberg. I have this in another version, so there was no reason to keep 2 copies. I don't know how I ended up with 2 copies. Why do I do this to myself? I do know why, because here's what I do is I will go to a used bookstore or a library sale, you name it, that has books for sale at good prices, and I will go, do I actually have this one? I might do, no, oh, this is such a good deal, and then I get it, and then now I have 2. This is getting to where it's really, these hurt me, they hurt me down to my soul. But anyway, I'm getting rid of some Stephen King's. I did read this, The Talisman. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I thought I would like rank it up there with The Dark Tower, which are my all-time favorites from Stephen King, if not from most authors in general. But it was fine and it was good. But anyway, I've read it, and that shelf space is limited. Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, again, very easy to get from my library on audiobook. So that one's going. And then The Institute, same thing, easy to get on audiobook. I have this nice, beautiful version. But also I hear that this is kind of meh, especially of the most recent Stephen King books. All right, my last grouping here. And this is one that takes me back to my blogging days. Alex J. Kavanaugh. I read the first book, Casa Star, I want to say. This is Casa Fire. Never quite got to this one. And that one I remember enjoying, and just lots of other things got on my list. But this is a review copy that I had received at the time. Neil Asher, he's been on my list for a while to read a lot of these books in his Polity series. I still have a couple earlier in the series. This one's just later in the series. Again, just taking up valuable space. I have enjoyed Stephen Brust before, and this is one that just is kind of a standalone. I may get to it someday, but just clearing space. I found I'm like kind of hit or miss. Agyar, I was like meh about, but like Jerrig was really fun. So anyway, we'll see. All right, these are the last 3 here. I have probably the hardest to get rid of, but they are just taking up space, and I have them on audio, and so that's where it's like, I have them on audio, it does make sense, but these have been in my collection for probably, if not the longest, up there with the longest, and this is gonna be Cold Fire Trilogy, Black Sun Rising there, When True Night Falls, and then Crown of Shadows. Anyway, hard to give up just because they've been around. They're like, they become your friends. I don't know, I have issues, whatever. But giving it up, that's what I'm doing, because I can do it. And I have them on audio, and we're going to do it. And that makes me, I want to read them even more. I keep getting, just recently on one of my most recent videos, I got another recommendation. They saw these actually sitting on my shelf in my last video, and they said, why aren't more people talking about this series? It's amazing. And I said, I want to be one of them, but I can't yet, so I will get there. But I had them out, so that was good. See, I told you, it's a starting point. But anyway, I really, really have only heard great things about C.S. Friedman and this trilogy, and so I cannot wait to read them. That's what most of this is, just clearing up space. Some of it is just like not real, interest going forward. Might as well get cut out. I lovingly call this culling the nobility, because I am a huge Malazan fan, and that's I don't know. It's really a morbid joke, really morbid. But these are my noble books that my nobility. I love them, and it's hard to get rid of them. I don't know, and. Again, you're not my therapist. Anyway, any that you're seeing here that you're like, no, you're making a bad choice, you've got to keep them, let me know. Thank you for stopping by. This video has gone way too long. I appreciate all of you and everyone. I've gotten a bunch of new subscribers lately on the channel, so thank you. I'm so excited you're here, and I hope you enjoy, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.